Well, I'm excited to have Donnie Maib here this morning. Donnie is, actually he spoke for us about a year and a half ago, and a month later got promoted to be the Assistant Athletic Director of Athletic Performance at the University of Texas. And so he also directly helps the athletes in the women's volleyball and men's tennis athletically excel. And so he's been doing that for many years, over 20 years. And he and his wife, Karen, have 4 daughters, and they live here in Cedar Park. And Donnie's just around, as you can imagine, when athletes go through an injury, they need some encouragement, and they need some hope through and some guided processes and training. So he's always a natural speaker for us because, just what job seekers are going through. So, Donnie, we're excited to have you. Why don't you come up and share with us this morning?
I think so. Testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it on? Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Thank you, Mr. Craig, for the introduction. I'm really excited to be here today to speak and share with you. I don't know about you, but my wife is here today, Miss Karen. Can you say hi, Miss Karen? And we have 4 daughters, and so we started back school today. And if you've ever had to get kids out of the bed on the first day back after a 2-week break, I think that's pretty equivalent to Lazarus coming out of the tomb alive again. So that was kind of our start of this morning. Just want to be here today. Hopefully, my goal is simple. Hopefully to encourage, give you some kind of hope, inspiration today. It's very simple. I'm hoping for some of you, I challenge you a little bit. Sometimes I think what you see in life is that when you go through a rough patch of whatever it is, I know we deal with student athletes, whether it's an injury or a family crisis, or they're not getting to play at all, they're sitting on the bench watching, which is a hard place for an athlete to be, is that sometimes we can get in a rut and be feeling sorry for ourselves. So hopefully I'll challenge some of you, because you can do more than you think you can, and you can handle more sometimes than you really think you can. So hopefully that's my goal for today. I want to share today, the title of kind of my talk or message is called A New Thing, and for 2016. Just as a show of hands, did you have a rough 2015? Raise your hand. Was it rough for you? Yes, I kind of figured that. I know I definitely had my professional challenges, so I had some rough patches as well. I'm not saying it was tough as yours, but definitely I had some tough moments in 2015. So even my hope and faith today, you'll hear it come out of my heart today, is for this year to be your best year ever. And so that's what we're going to talk about. I want to start kind of with a story. You'll see if you talk to me or hang around me, I read a lot of books. I'm a voracious reader. Now, I wasn't like that in school, high school, or college. I don't know what happened. God has a sense of humor, because when I read more books now than you couldn't have paid me to read a book in college, or you would have called hives on me if you put a book in my hand to read. But I read a lot. One book I love to read, it was a few years ago. The author's name is Dr. Henry Cloud. And the book is called Necessary Endings. It's a great book. It's more of a business book. Got some great principles. But he talks about in this book, he starts the whole thesis of the book about a rose gardener, rose bush gardener, somebody who takes care of rose bushes. And it's interesting, I never knew this, but as he studied that and talked about it, rose bushes are interesting. They actually can produce more flower bulbs than the root system they have to sustain it. So the root system is very short and shallow and it doesn't go very deep. And so a rose bush can produce a lot more bulbs than it can the nutrients it can get in and absorb, even if you water it every day. And so what will happen, a rose bush will start to produce these bulbs that turn brown and start to wilt and die. And so the rose bush's challenge is to look at a bush and to know which bulbs need to be cut off. Even though there may be some beauty and potential there, which ones does the rose bush gardener need to cut off so that, guess what? the rose bush can flourish. And so I think sometimes as we go through our life, we may start something that's really great and it's blooming, but it's taken away from what your original purpose was. And so sometimes you need to cut off things in your life. You need to put an ending to it. It needs to die. And so that was kind of the thesis. And kind of think, I'm going to give you some of these principles today as we go through, but think about that. Pain sometimes does have a purpose. And I'm going to get into that in a minute, but I'm a strength coach or an athletic performance coach. I am going to intentionally cause you pain if you come work with me. I'm going to. In my mind, when I work with you as an individual, as an athlete, or even as you're just trying to get in shape, I'm going to psychologically, physically, emotionally take you to the limit of where you're at. I'm not going to take you over the cliff because I know this one principle about your body that you don't get as you're in the pain. Once I tear your body down, your nervous system, the way it's wired, it's going to rebuild that body stronger for the next workout. But there's a process there. You actually, when you work out, you start here and you actually dip in weakness. And then there's a process of healing that takes days and weeks for you to get stronger than you were in this workout here. And so sometimes in life, you have trouble seeing the big picture that you're really being prepared for something greater, and your body's going through pain right now, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, relational, to make you a better leader in the future. So this is our scripture for today. And this has been on my heart before going into 2016, but it's Isaiah 43. The context of this scripture is Israel has been in 70 to 80 years of captivity. They've been oppressed. I mean, that's not a bad year. That's a bad life. 70 to 80 years of being oppressed in captivity in Babylon. And so Isaiah the prophet gets this word to give to the Israelites in captivity, like, look, forget not the former things. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not see it? Now it springs up. Do you not see it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. I think the hardest thing for any of us, whether it's an athlete or us as individuals, is when we have a bad past experience, is not to look in the past and let that be the predictor of our future. Because that's all you rehearse, right? If you've ever had a really bad failure in life, you just beat yourself up with that, right? You really beat yourself up bad. I mean, I'm a dad of 4 daughters. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes every day with my daughters. And how my wife is like a Jedi Knight, how she handles those girls. I don't understand when they get all emotional, start crying, and it literally happened this morning. They walk in the room happy one moment, next second she's sad and crying and sniffling. What happened? Nothing happened. I'm good. Well, what's wrong? Nothing. Well, I've learned from my past, right, that I don't need to get upset. I need to kind of calm down and, like WWE wrestling, tag team wrestling, go tap Karen on the shoulder and go, babe, you got this one. And she comes in and saves the day. And so I've learned from my past experiences that, man, sometimes you need to go do a new thing. So that's our scripture. Here's our 3 side adjustments. Again, the key with new things for 2016, it's a simple concept. You've got to see it on the inside first before it will happen on the outside. Every athlete I work with, that's called visualization. In the spiritual realm, it's called having faith, right? There's nothing there. It's actually gotten worse this year for me. It hasn't gotten better. So I'm not trying to get you pumped up, but I'm trying to stir your belief and faith, hopefully, that something bigger is on the way. So can you see it? Can you adjust your sight? And I'm going to start talking about optimism here first. Then we'll talk about obstacles and then opportunities. So 3 sight adjustments you're going to need to adjust in your spirit, in your mind and heart today. First one, optimism. I love to read. If you've ever read anything about Ronald Reagan, he used to tell the story about optimism. And the story goes like this. There was a set of parents, a mom and a dad, and they had twin boys, 6 years old. One of them was an extreme pessimist, and one of them was an extreme optimist. Worried about their really extreme personalities and temperaments, they took them to the psychologist. Psychologist met with them, talked to them, evaluated them, but then did a little experiment. He took the pessimist to a room by himself, isolated, and it was a room filled with toys. And he wanted to see if he could do something to get the kid out of his pessimistic, negative thoughts. And so he put him in a room, left him by himself, came back and checked him. The kid was bawling in tears. And the psychiatrist asked him, why are you so upset with all these toys? He answered simply, I'm afraid that I'm going to break one of them. So I can't play with them. So he jotted that down. Took the optimist and tried to bring this kid down and find maybe a chink in his armor. Took him, put him in a different room. And that room had a huge pile of horse manure. Locked him in the room, left him there. Sounds like an evil thing. Comes back moments later, and the kid has let out a yelp of joy and is digging scoop by scoop with his hands through the pile of horse manure. He stopped the kid. What are you doing? That's kind of gross. I mean, how are you excited about that? And the kid, so optimistically as he would say, with all this horse manure in here, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. And so, what about you this year? Have you been that pessimist or have you been the optimist? Is life giving you a pile of mess that you're kind of sorting through? Or have you given up? Which one are you? So optimism. Another thing, I love movies. I'm a big superhero movie. You ever seen Transformers? If you haven't, just bear with me as I kind of talk about this. But as I was looking up the word optimist, optimism comes from the word optimist, which means best. That's what that word means, the best. The most favorable condition or level for growth, reproduction, or success. That's the best. Now, if you've ever seen the Transformers, the leader of the Autobots, his name is what? Optimus Prime. And I love his voice. And that's his mantra right there. So here's Optimus, and his big mantra, his big saying is, till we are all one. He's fighting a battle versus good and evil in the universe to bring everybody together as one so that they can't be oppressed. He has been programmed, he's a machine that's been programmed by somebody, I don't know all the details, to be what? An optimist. Everything, if you ever watch all those movies, in every situation, you have the belief and faith that it's impossible, he's going to make it work. Even when he dies, I think in the second or third movie, you just know he's coming back because he's that positive of a character in the movie. And he draws people with him and he leads and he gives people hope. And so for 2016, I want to start with this. Can you get your optimist up? Can you get your optimism going again? Well, coach, it's gone, it's dead. I know, I understand, but can you start to kind of look at things and be like optimists and have a mantra, which I'm going to share with you in a second. So Optimus Prime. There's 3 types of people in life, I love to say. Right? The first type of people that you meet in life are quitters, right? Those are the derelicts, they checked out, they're not here today, right? They're not trying to find a job, they're not trying to get in the battle of life, and we deal with this in sports. It's not a good thing to deal with quitters. I mean, the one thing that'll get a coach upset is if you have any kind of quit in you, which is what I'm looking for, if you show a glimpse of quit in you, that's going to really infuriate me because we can't have quitters in life. So no quitters here. But the second type of person is what? A camper. Now, campers are a little different. They're like quitters, but they're still they're going along with the ride. They're not going forward. They're not going backwards. They're kind of camped out. I like to call them hamburger eaters. We used to have, when we travel with football or different sports, some people just are on the ride. They're doing just enough to get by. They're doing the workout. They're going to school. They're wearing the jersey, but they're camped out. It's the same thing as a quitter, but they're just indifferent. They're cloaking themselves. And then the last kind of person you'll meet in life is a climber, which is what you guys are. Climbers are interesting. You can take a climber, put them in a pit, they'll climb out. They've done studies on two different vines. There's climbing vines and there's creeping vines. You can take a creeping vine, because it's always going to go to the ground. You can put it on lattice work and and guess where it's going? It's going back down. You can take a climbing vine, you can put that in the lowest part of the earth, and it's going to climb out. That's just how it's wired. And so you've got to be the kind of person that no matter where you go, no matter how low your deal goes, you're coming out of that at some point. You're going to climb out of it. And so 3 types of people: quitters, climbers, and campers. And our problem oftentimes with optimism is our mouth, isn't it? Proverbs 18:21 says, the power of life and death is in your mouth. What I confess, at some point I will possess. God created the world with speech. He spoke, it happened. Now, we're not God, but we do have the same attributes that we use our mouth a lot. So what comes out of your mouth? Is it pessimist? Is it negative, complaining, whining, self-pity? Woe is me? Or is it faith, optimism, excitement, enthusiasm, a good attitude, infectious? Do you lift people with your words or do you hurt people? Your words matter, especially if you're going through a tough patch. My favorite emoji on the cell phone is this right here. Everybody do that for me. Give me one. Come on now, some of y'all did this. I know what this means. Come on, one more time, nice and hot. So, just like Optimus, hopefully today, this is your program today. And everybody say on 3, I want you to say that with me. 1, 2, 3.
Something good is going to happen to me.
That is your Optimus mantra today. Hope does what? It does wonders for the soul. And at the bottom, the definition of hope is that right there. Is there confident expectation that something good is going to happen to you? And I'm going to say this now. I've seen it happen in sports. You can go through your worst season ever individually, and then all of a sudden you have your breakout because you didn't die in that tough moment. So that's your mantra for this year, is something good is going to happen to me. So first one was optimism. Our second point today is what? Obstacles. I love to tell a story about 2 prisoners one night were laying in a cell in bunk beds, staring out the same window with bars on it. One of the prisoners spoke up in the middle of the night as they were staring out into the sky and said, "Oh, I can't believe it. I just can't take looking at these bars. We've been here for so long, and these bars are just killing me." The other prisoner paused for a moment in the darkness and said, "What bars? All I see is stars." He didn't see the bars. He was enjoying the view of the night. And so when you see obstacles in your life, do you see bars or do you see stars? Again, it's all in your perception. I've been studying a lot of just the whole theme of happiness and mental toughness. And what we're finding out with athletes, it's not what the workout actually is as far as difficulty. It's their perception of how hard that workout is. Some athletes, you'll take them through a workout and go, "That was the easiest workout I've ever done. When are you going to make it hard?" Other ones like, "You killed me today. You killed me." What was it? It's the perception. What you're going through right now is as hard as you perceive it to be. If you think it's hard, it's hard. But if you think, "Oh, I can make it through this is good," and focus on the positive things as you're going through this rough patch, you're going to be just fine. That's why you can see some people will go through something tragic, and the marriage if it's a marriage, it'll separate them. I've seen it happen in real life. God forbid this ever happen to anybody, but you lose a loved one, and it blows that marriage apart. Then I've seen some people, it actually draws them closer, the tragedy. And it's what do you see in that? Is there any good in something that's negative and horrific and bad? Is there something good going to come out of that? Hopefully so. Hopefully so. So obstacles, number 2. So I don't know if big readers here, but this is probably one of the best books I've ever read. And it's got a horrible title, by the way. The title kind of scared me off, but Tim Keller is a pastor out of New York, but it's called Walking with God Through Pain and Suffering. It's a very difficult read, so if you don't like to read all the big words and all that, it'll be tough for you to read, but it was a phenomenal read for me. It just adjusted my perspective as I was going through some tough things this year. I really don't have it that bad. Once you read some of those stories in that book, it kind of scares you a little bit. It didn't me, because there's some people, he shares some personal stories in there of individuals going through rough stuff. But he talks about in there, in the Western culture, in America basically, he talks about there's different cultures of suffering. And I found it interesting of how in America, the secular view, people that have no faith in God, that believe God exists, they have this kind of view in America. They don't ever see suffering as meaningful part of life. They only see it as an interruption into what they're trying to accomplish. As he did this study, that the goal is in this culture is just to prevent suffering. There's just no way that there's any good in suffering. They want to lessen the pain. They want to look to the cause of that pain and eliminate it. And then the last point I love, they believe there's no God who will put things right. And see, here's the difference in a secular society and a Christian-based mentality, belief society, is that over here, let's fix it. Let's run from it because it hurts. It's bad. But over here, if you embrace the pain and the journey, you're actually going to be a better person because of it. And I've seen it. I've seen people go through tough seasons of life, and they actually become a more virtuous person because of that adversity. It makes them stronger. They're mentally tougher. They got better resolve. Their relationships are stronger because they went through some suffering and hard times. Now, my favorite quote in the Bible, the scripture is, and it came to pass. Right? I'm not talking about torment and torture. I'm not talking about evil. I'm talking about just sometimes God will allow us to go through tough things because your priorities are out of whack. One, you put him to the side. You're neglecting him. And number 2, he's trying to get your attention and adjust some things in your life, but for your benefit. Romans 8:28 says, for what? All things, everybody say all. All things work together for the good of those who love God, who've been called according to his purpose. That's the overall theme in our lives. So cultures of suffering, highly recommended read. Adversity quotient. I love this principle about adversity quotient. You're seeing it in athletes today. The word that they're using today is the word grit. Has anybody heard this word? Grittiness, tenacity, never give up, stick-to-itiveness. You know, most of us need to be like a postage stamp. We need to stick to our purpose until we get to our destination. Don't come off of it, right? We need to be like a stamp like that. Some of us don't need a high IQ. We need a high AQ. See, IQ is your intelligent quotient, how smart you are, intellectual. Adversity quotient is what? How much suffering and trials and tribulation you can handle and not break you down. And so you need a high AQ. Because here's the deal. I don't always know exactly what's going on or why I'm going through something. I can't answer the why question. But I do know this. Preparation always comes before promotion. Every championship we've ever won, I've been a part of I've been part of more than that. I've been a part of 4 winning national championships. Track and field with women. Football. Men's tennis has been to the championship. And in volleyball, we just went and got beat. We won it in 12, got beat recently. And I'm going to tell you what. You guys, every stage you see somebody stand on their success, that public victory was always preceded by a private victory. There's going to be something that happens in the dark before you actually get on stage and you win that fight. So it's like a boxing match. You see boxers, they go into what? They go into an arena. lights off, dark, punching bags. They hire people to come in and do what? Beat the snot out of them for weeks before they actually get in the ring with their opponent. And so when they get in the opponent, if they train properly, guess what? They'll win the fight because they've been conditioned to take punches and fights and get knocked down and get and dip and slip and move and be tired and don't. They've been trained. They got their guy in their corner saying, you got this. You know, he's hitting you with the right, move to the left. And so sometimes we're getting prepared for that fight to be successful, but we don't see it because it's in the darkness. Another way I love to give these examples of how to see what you're going through, because you gotta have perspective going into a new year. That's the biggest thing you gotta have first. Trees grow 3 different ways. I read a book by Arthur Pink, and it was called Spiritual Growth was the name of the book. It's a very old classic book, tough read, but some good nuggets in it. And he talked about trees grow 3 ways. They grow upward, right? The branches grow longer, you get more fruit and leaves on it. They grow downward, the roots grow deeper. But the third way a tree grows, which is interesting, is that they don't grow up or down. It's in the wintertime when it gets freezing cold and the tree looks dead. There's no life on it. It looks rough and crumbly and like it's going to crack off. It's actually increasing internally in sap. The tree sap increases. Why does it do that? Because when the spring comes and the rain hits and growth and success comes, the sap is increased to be able to handle what? To sustain the root system and the leaves and branches that grow new. And so sometimes we need to grow internally. We don't need to grow externally. And that internal growth is and we don't see that today because we're so external in the world, but the internal piece, man, in sports, this is way more important than this. I've seen athletes that got this, but in here they're a mental midget. Mighty Mouse. Little bitty, little puny arms. It's like they're skinny and like anorexic here, and they're physically He-Man out here. And so we're no different. You might not be in sports, but you're in the game of life. But internally, are you rich? Are you worth value inside? Do you have good character? Do you have values? Do you care about people? Do you treat them like garbage? That matters more than what you do in life. And so internally, we can be rotten, but externally, we can be full of just success. And so the wintertime comes to hopefully increase some of that in our life. And look, don't be this dude in the gym. You ever been to the gym and seen this guy? Oh, the upper body's huge, and his legs look like little stilts. You know you laugh at that guy. He's the one always taking the selfies. Like, say, bro, what? You always wear sweatpants in the workout? It's like 110 degrees in here. Where's those shorts at today? Let me see those legs, bro. Because they won't do it. They won't do it. Proverbs 24:10 says, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. Oh, you big guy on campus. You strong. Let's go hit that squat rack. And so spiritually, you got to have legs under you, right? They got to be strong. That's your foundation. Sometimes I think Christians we're so top heavy, right? Meaning we want the show muscles. You put in the camera and like, man, in my ass, six pack, boom, 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 boom. Your legs, you look like you got polio, bro. This is all about success, external, the legs nobody sees, but that's your foundation in your life. Are you strong spiritually? And then our third point today, we talked about, help me out, what was our first point today? What was the first one? Optimism, right? What was the second one? Obstacles. And then our last point today is what? Opportunities. So opportunities comes from, it's a NASA term, it's a space term. And the space shuttle, when it's coming back in from outer space and it's going to re-enter Earth's atmosphere, it has to hit a certain angle and a certain speed before it re-enters. And it's actually called, there's a window of opportunity. And if it doesn't hit the right speed and the right angle at that window, it will shatter into millions of pieces into the solar system. It'll bounce right off Earth's atmosphere. And so opportunities oftentimes are not about you taking hold of something. Oftentimes it's about you being ready for it when it comes. And you'll see that in sports. a lot. And I tell our athletes a lot of times, don't pray for more opportunities. Pray you'll be ready when the opportunity arises. I cannot count. I've been coaching 21 years. It'd be my 22nd year of coaching coming up. And I was guilty of this in college. You don't get to play, you get an injury, and you start feeling sorry for yourself, and you stop working. You stop getting your body right. You start getting your mind right. You start hanging out with the wrong people. Start going and doing the wrong things. And guess what? You're wasting time. And so guess what? Sometimes in life, there's opportunities that's going to come your way, and it's going to be a short window, just like that space shuttle. And if you're not ready for that and equipped and trained and mentally in a good spot, you're going to miss that opportunity because you didn't what? You didn't get ready for it. So don't fret if there's not opportunities right now. It's dry out there. Just keep getting ready. It's coming. I'm telling you, it's on the way. You just got to get ready for it. Our two barriers, we really only have two barriers, insecure. And I always say the devil's got two plans. He's going to either beat you down, or he's going to puff you up with pride and make you arrogant. So he's going to tell you can't do it. If you've ever read in the Old, I love the Old Testament, when Israel's going into the promised land, Moses sends 12 spies over. They come back, two of them say, let us go up at once. We are well able to take the giants and take this land. The other 10 said what? We be not able. What church do you go to? Do you go to the we be not able church? Or we are well able? So that's the insecurity, right? Of thinking, man, you've had a rough season, and now all of a sudden you've lost your confidence. You've lost your drive and initiative. Maybe that's a little insecurity there. Or maybe pride. You were doing really big, you're doing great, and all of a sudden you got brought low. Your pride's been kind of wounded a little bit. And so don't let the barrier of I can't do it anymore versus I can do it by myself, the pride, keep you from going in. Don't let the devil puff you up with pride either. Now I want to talk about opportunities, right? I love to talk about David and Goliath. For 40 days and 40 nights, the Goliath, the giant of the Philistines, taunted Israel. He'd walk back and forth in front of the army, and nobody would fight him. David he was taking care of the sheep with his dad. His brothers were fighting, or supposed to be fighting, but they weren't. His dad sends him with cheese to go feed his brothers and check on them. He gets there. So again, going back to opportunities. Think about this now. Israel said what? We be not able. Joshua and Caleb said, we are able. Same situation. Different day, right? Goliath. The army said what? We can't beat him. He's too big. David shows up on the scene. He goes, he's so big I can't miss. You see the difference in the mentality and the thought process of that? Now look. How many stones, if you read it, they tried to put armor on him. Saul did. He couldn't walk. He said, let me do me. All right, that's my athletic coach language. Let me do me, coach. I got this. Right? He goes down to the brook, and he just does what he's really good at. He picks up what? 5 smooth stones. Now, how many giants was it? There was 1. Why did he get 5 stones? Did he think he was going to miss? No. If you go over to 2 Samuel, I think it is. I have to look it up, but Goliath had 4 brothers. If you go read it, there were 4 other giants in the land that's not mentioned when he fights them in Samuel. He got 4 more stones because he's going to take out Goliath and his 4 brothers. So when you get an opportunity sometimes, get your 5 stones. Don't just believe for the 1, but there's 4 more coming. Prepare yourself for that. Again, that's opportunities. Well, you say, okay, I get that that's God's anointed man. But what about small opportunities? That's a big one. Mosquitoes. You like mosquitoes? Ooh, they make me mad. Especially if I get bit. That thing's itching me all the next 3 days and swole up like a knot on my neck. Let me ask you this question. Has anybody ever told a mosquito, oh, you can't make a big difference in life? You're a little bitty, lightweight, pipsqueak, Minnie Mouse. You can't make a difference. You ever been in a sleeping bag with one of them jokers? Who gets out, you or him? You get out. Be a mosquito. Oh, how you got the skill set? Be a mosquito in life. Run them all up out of there. You have a tent full of people and one mosquito coming, everybody run. Ah, it's a mosquito. Man, if you just swat that thing, it'd be done, but have the mindset of a mosquito. And then keys, small keys open up what? Huge doors. Small keys open up huge doors. Another thing on small things, again, thinking about small opportunities, is that's a mustard seed. A mustard seed is one of the smallest seeds on the planet, but it produces one of the strongest trees. So small opportunities, David had a big opportunity, but you may this year get small opportunities, but you don't ever know what it's going to turn into. So take those small opportunities. I always like to say, don't despise the day of small beginnings. There's some things that I know that I'm telling you in my life over the years I've done, it's always started really small. I love Miles Monroe's, one of his famous quotes is, the death of a seed is the burial of a forest. The death of a small seed could be the burial of a forest. One watermelon seed produces hundreds of watermelons. So sometimes we get a seed form of something. If we just keep working it and nurturing it, taking care of it, it's going to be bigger. In the power of one word can change your life. Lazarus, if you ever study that, come forth. It was a short word, but it resurrected him. One touch can heal you, the leprous hand. One small touch in your life can heal you. One step can deliver you. Jesus in the garden. One prayer can give you a breakthrough. Hannah in the Old Testament prayed for Samuel. She was barren for years. You talk about unsuccessful. Back then, it was a shame to be a mom without children. In one prayer, the priest granted her request, and she had Samuel, the great prophet of the Old Testament. One act of service can promote you. Again, small, insignificant, little opportunities can bring life to you this year. Don't think small always about small things. And I'm going to leave you with one challenge this year, and then I'll turn it back over to Craig. But I love to share the story of, there's an author that in the summer times, he would go to the beach to do his writing and collect his thoughts and start on his next book or whatever he was working on in that season of his life. And so one morning he went down to the beach and he checked in and went to bed, got up the next morning and was out looking out the window drinking his coffee. And he looked down the beach and lo and behold, down the beach, it looked like there was somebody down there like dancing or something. He couldn't figure it out. So curious, like, why would somebody be on the beach dancing this early in the morning? So he goes down the steps onto the beach walking, and as he gets closer, he notices it's a young man. But the young man's not dancing. As he's walking, he notices that there's these sand dollars that have washed ashore overnight. The high tide had brought them in, and they were stranded on the beach. And this young boy was picking up these sand dollars, and he was throwing them back out into the ocean to save them so they would live. But there was hundreds and thousands of them all up and down the shore. And as he got closer, he looked at the young man. He goes, "Young man, what are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I'm saving these sand dollars." And the old man laughed at me. He goes, "You got to be kidding me. You're going to try to save? There's no way you're going to save all these sand dollars. It's not going to make a difference." The young boy looked at him with a gleam in his eye and chuckled a little bit, reached down, grabbed another sand dollar, and threw it back out onto the water. He goes, "I just made a difference in that one." And so my challenge for you this year, talked about optimism, right? We talked about obstacles. And there's going to be opportunities, big and small. Don't overlook either one. But you have the faith and the belief and the mindset that this year you're going to make a difference in one person's life. I don't know who it is. Write that person down, put it in your phone, whoever it is. This year, it may go worse for you at first, but you're going to be a blessing in somebody else's life. And what you make happen in somebody else's life, God is going to eventually make happen in your life. My prayer and hope and faith for you this year is this will be your best year yet. Thank you for your time.